This meeting is being recorded.
So we are going to, as we get started, I've been reading this book, Grit. Excellent if you've never read it. And the chapter I'm in that I'm going to talk a little bit about tonight is How Gritty Are You? And if you have pen and paper, this is going to be a participation. So as I talk a minute here, take a few minutes and grab a pen and paper because you're just going to be jotting down about 10 numbers is all. And then we're going to add them up in total. All right. So that you can find out how gritty you are right now before we finish this segment. And one of the things that we all know that there are no shortcuts to excellence. Developing real expertise, figuring out hard problems, it all takes time. And they actually say, I think it's 20,000 hours before you're actually an expert, if I'm remembering that correctly. And it all takes time, longer than most of us imagine. And then, you've got to apply all those skills, produce goods and services that are valuable to people. And we've all heard that Rome wasn't built in a day, right? And one really important thing that they talk about in this book is grit. Grit is about working on something you care about so much that you're willing to stay loyal to it. And he actually has like a little chart. And again, I apologize, I can't get this any bigger. But if you look up here at the very top of the chart, you'll see the words. It says, not at all me, not much like me, somewhat like me, mostly like me, and very much like me. So in simplicity, this last column is going to be very much like you. If it's a lot like you, when I read this idea, then you're going to put very much like me. And I'll go over these numbers too, just to make sure. But the first one is new ideas and projects sometimes distract me from previous ones. So new ideas and projects sometimes distract me from previous ones. If this isn't you at all, then you would be a 5. If it's somewhat like you, then it would be a 3. If it's a lot like you, very much, then it would be a 1. And then 2 is mostly like me and 4 is not much like me. So pick your number in there. The second question is, setbacks don't discourage me. I don't give up easily. So 1 would be not at all like me. Okay, so the question is, setbacks don't discourage me. So if that's not you, then it would be a 1. Not much like you, a 2, somewhat like you, a 3, mostly like me, a 4, very much like me, a 5. Setbacks do discourage me sometimes, so I put mostly like me. I do get setback, but I don't give up. So I put a 4. 3, I often set a goal, but later choose to pursue a different one. So 5 would be not at all, 4, not much, 3, somewhat, 2, mostly, and 1, very much. Okay, I often set a goal, but later choose to pursue a different one. 4, I am a hard worker. 1, not at all like me. 2, not much like me. 3, somewhat like me. 4, mostly like me. And 5, very much like me. I put a 5 because I am a very hard worker no matter what I do. 5 is I have difficulty maintaining my focus on projects that take more than a few months to complete. Okay, I have difficulty maintaining focus on projects that take more than a few months to complete. 5 is not at all like me. 4, not much like me. 3, somewhat. 2, mostly. 1, very much like me. Okay. 6, I finish whatever I begin. 1 is not at all. 2, not much like me. 3, somewhat. 4, mostly. 5, very much like me. I think mine was a 4 or 5 because I try to finish whatever I start. 7, my interest, no matter if it takes me a few years or longer than that, I always try to go back and finish it. My interests change from year to year. Well, 5, not at all like me. 4, not much. 3, somewhat. 2, mostly. 1, very much like me. My interests do change, but that's kind of more in the middle for me. That was kind of like a 3. 8 is I am diligent. I never give up. 1, not at all like me. 2, not much. 3, somewhat. 4, mostly. 5, very much like me. I am diligent. I never give up. 9 is I have been obsessed with a certain idea or project for a short time, but later lost interest. Okay. 5, not at all like me. 4, not much like me. 3, somewhat. 2, mostly. And 1, very much. I have been obsessed with a certain idea or project for a short time, but later lost interest. I gave myself a middle of the road 3. 10 is I have overcome setbacks to conquer an important challenge. 1, not at all like me. 2, not much. 3, somewhat. 4, mostly. And 5, very much like me. So again, I have overcome setbacks to conquer an important challenge. Now what I want you to do to actually calculate your total grit score, add up all the points for everything that you went ahead and answered here. And then what you're going to do is, so let's just say you add them all up and it comes out to 5, 6, 10, 15, 20, 25. Say it came up to 40. Okay. So then you're going to go ahead and divide it by 10. And then your grit score on a percentile is 10% grittiness is 2.5, 20% is 3.0, 30% 3.3, 40% 3.5, 50% 3.8, 60% 3.9, 70% 4.1, 80% 4.3, 90% 4.5, 95% 4.7, 99% is a 4.9. I had a 4.2. So I'm a little higher than above average when it comes to being gritty. Some people would agree with that. Now, keep in mind, the score is a reflection of how you see yourself right now. How gritty you are at this point in your life might be different from the past, and that can change. Grit has 2 components. It's passion and perseverance. Okay. And he gives an example. He gives a story of a gentleman in here that he went to school to be a journalist, and he was learning to be a journalist. And his journalism took him to Africa, and he fell in love with Africa. And he went back to school, and during a project, he ended up being sent back to Africa. And again, he just, this ignition within him just sparked. So he decided that whatever it took, he wanted to be in Africa. So, and a friend of his asked him, he says, if you could be a journalist or live in East Africa, what would you choose? And he said, without a doubt, it would be to live in Africa. But what he found is at that point, he wasn't quite sure how he would make a life there. His passion was to live there, but he hadn't figured out how to do that yet. So long story short, he figured out that he could be a journalist and live in Africa and have a lot of creativity. Okay. So he had lots of ups and downs. It was a winding road with lots of places that he had to be and leave. There was difficult times, discouraging times, demoralizing times, scary times. But eventually he got where he wanted to be. And basically, when you have and so for him, that top goal was to live in Africa. And everything fell underneath that goal to live in Africa. So everything he did pointed to that. And when you have a clarity of what that goal is, then you're going to get those other minimal tasks down below done a lot easier, and realize that all of these set you forward to move on towards that goal. So I'm going to bring up another, oh, wrong way. Yes, to you. Here we go. So basically what, sorry, I got to go a little bit further. Here we go. So what he did is, and I'm going to give you another example of Pete. Actually, that was Pete that we're talking about. I'm going to be giving you another example of a Hall of Fame pitcher, Tom Seaver. But one thing, and I loved this chart, and the other two charts really helped me to understand, because you find that when something doesn't work, you just get rid of it and replace it with something else, right? And so your goal, your very top goal, your priority overall is your compass. That's what's going to guide you, what you're passionate about and where you're driving towards. That's your top level goal. And then you're going to find there's going to be some goals underneath that. They're going to help get you to that ultimate goal eventually. All right. So if somebody's looking for freedom and flexibility like we were in our Shaklee business, obviously our goal is to reach a high leadership level of key coordinator, master coordinator, executive master coordinator, in order to give us that freedom and flexibility of travel and to spend time with our family and to offer things to not only our kids, but to our grandkids. Okay. So mid-level goals, well, I have to reach higher ranks in Shaklee. And how do I do that? I bring in other leaders, right? Well, how do I do that? What's my low-level goals? How do I do that? Well, I have to talk to people. I have to invite people to take a look at what we have. I have to have some systems in play. And I have to find different recruiting methods and teaching methods that are going to work the best for me, right? And I'm going to go to people that have done it before and find out what they're doing that has worked. And if sometimes what they may be doing, you might have to tweak it a little bit to work a little bit better for you. That makes sense? It's 90% copyable, but you have to put in your own ways in there, your own personality in there. And so these low-level goals exist merely as a means to an end. They only exist to reach me to these goals and then to the top goal. And so again, that top level goal gives us direction. And I love the story they gave of an example of a Hall of Fame pitcher his name was Tom Seaver. And his aim was to pitch the best he possibly could day after day and year after year. This intention gave him meaning, and it gave him structure to his everyday life. This is what he said. He said, pitching determines what I eat, when I go to bed, what I do when I'm awake. It determines how I spend my life when I'm not pitching. If it means I have to come to Florida and can't get tanned because I might get a burn that would keep me from throwing for a few days, then I never go shirtless in the sun. If it means I have to remind myself to pet dogs with my left hand or throw logs on the fire with my left hand, then I do that too. If it means in the winter I eat cottage cheese instead of chocolate chip cookies in order to keep my weight down, then I eat cottage cheese. So the life that he described sounds kind of grim, right? He's got all these things that he is going to do and he isn't going to do. But pitching, which is his ultimate goal, makes him happy. So he's willing to do all that other stuff underneath because he's reaching the ultimate goal. That's where his life is. That's what he wants to be doing. Grit is about holding that same top level goal for a very long time. And in business and any kind of business, it takes time to learn the business. It takes time to become good at it. And something that really helped me understand that was this book by Eric Ward. It's called Go Pro. If you've never read this, you want to get this. And any network marketing company, you should read this, because he gives a picture of the different types of people that are going to come into your business. And I relate so well with, and I went through each stage of those people in my own journey in this business. And it really helped me to understand. And I had to finally come to the point where I said, I am going to become good at what I do, no matter how long it takes. I'm going to become an expert in my field. I'm going to help people. I'm going to be able to train people. I am going to be able to help people to become their best you. And so that basically, all those other goals is going to take me to that higher level goal. Now, the other thing he says is you're going to run into a lot of people. We want a dream, right? But a dream without a plan is just a dream. It's not going to go anywhere. And if you see, with our top level goal, we have other goals that we have to hit down underneath there before it reaches us to that. So if somebody says, well, yeah, I want to be a doctor. I remember my daughter, she researched, she saw how much money that, what are the people called that, anesthesiologists that put people to sleep before surgery? Mm-hmm. And then she looked at how much schooling it takes. She goes, oh, no, not going to do that. She wasn't willing to pay the price. So was she that passionate about it? No, she wasn't that passionate about it because she wasn't willing to do those other things that needed to be done, right? You can feel really good about that dream, but unless, again, you have a plan and start putting that plan into practice, it's just going to be a dream. So this is another really great picture that really helped me to begin to start connecting the dots. And I'm going to give you something else to do that has been very helpful to me as well. And this is basically showing how you can have a few competing goal hierarchies that aren't in any way connected with each other. Now, most of the time you're going to find you may have a professional goal in business, and then you'll have a personal goal, okay? That'll have those other, that you got the top goal, and then you've got those other things that you've got to hit in order to be able to get to that top goal. But what this shows is you've got all kinds of little goals here with things that have to be done underneath it that have no connection with one another. And I'll never forget it. One of my pastor's wives, she said to me, she says, there are a lot of things I could do well, but it doesn't mean I should do them all. And that really hit me hard because I'm a very multifaceted person and I love to do a lot of different things. And when she said that, it made me realize maybe I had too many irons in the fire and I needed to curtail down to where do I really want to go in my life? What is that end result I'm looking for? And so this really, again, kind of gave me a picture of that. Now, Warren Buffett, before I get into this picture, he's a self-made millionaire whose personal wealth he acquired entirely himself. And so he said there's a 3-step process to prioritizing what it is, what those actual goals are. He said the first thing, write down a list of 25 career goals. And you may think to yourself, well, gosh, I don't know if I have 25. Well, write them down. You might surprise yourself. You'd be like, well, I want to do this, and I would love to do this, and this, and 25 career goals. Second thing, do some soul searching and circle the 5 highest priority goals. Only 5. Third, take a good hard look at the 20 goals you didn't circle and then avoid them. Move towards those top 5 in your priority, and those are the ones you're going to shoot for. How easy, for me, it is very hard to keep my attention span. And so I have got to have a concrete reason to move forward and be passionate about that in order to stick with what I'm doing. And again, there comes that grit, figuring, and that's why.
Where do you mainly want me to go?
And Shaklee, what they have found is that is why the why is so important. when they figure out that why and what that ultimate goal is, it's not going to matter with all these little, remember, these little goals aren't ends to the means. These are going to take me further to that ultimate goal that I'm looking for. And when we can change some of our perception of how we look at those short-term goals and things that we might look at as not so pleasant right now. And I love what Mary had to say before when we talked about phone calls. So many times we don't want to make those phone calls to people because maybe we're thinking, well, I'm just going to be a bother, or they're not going to be interested. Instead, changing that to these are connection calls. I am making connections with people, and I am sharing something that can make a complete turnaround difference in their life. And it's kind of like make those chicken calls. You know, you're a chicken to call certain people because you're afraid of what they're going to say. And there was finally a couple that I approached that I have not approached. It's taken me, I did make a phone call about a month ago. They didn't call me back. Well, interesting thing is they stopped by the house and they live out of state. So this was a God thing that this occurred, and it gave me an opportunity to talk with them a little bit about what Shaklee could do for them and what their end result goals are, you know, an end to a means. And then, you know, I said, well, I'll follow up and call. And then I was like, oh, should I call? Should I text? And I was like, oh, maybe I should just text. And I said, no, I am calling because this business, it can make that significant difference, not only in their lives, but in the lives that they can reach. So I called, and we're going to talk later this week. We have an appointment to talk. So we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, I love this. Oh, let me finish this first before we get into this chart. To help you prioritize, you can add columns that allow you to sort out how interesting and important these projects or goals are. All right. So you can rate each goal on a scale from 1 to 10, least to most interesting, and then again from least to most important. Again, 1 to 10, least to most important, and then multiply them together. And obviously the highest score is going to be that highest one. It's going to take some thought, but it really helps to give you clarity, because if you're clear about where you're going and what you really want, the rest is you're just going to mow through it. You're just going to do it. And so, and what he found and what I found when I began to think about what my highest priorities were in my life and really what I wanted to accomplish. One of my things that I had noticed in the same themes, I wanted to write books. I wanted to be able to teach on a large scale level. I want to be able to help people in their nutrition. You know, I'm here to counsel people. And what I had found is, after talking with a friend of mine who's in marketing, she says, what is your overall theme there? And I said, well, it seems like my overall theme is to help people to be at their best. And that's where I came up to be your best you. Because everything has a theme that goes towards that. And it's finding out what yours is. And one of the things that they talk about in here is same thing. All those common threads of goals all went towards one common goal, is what they found. And so it's to help you to realize that we all only have so much time. And any successful person has to decide in life what to do by deciding what not to do. And sometimes saying no is the best thing you can do, varying on what it is. So, and then you ask yourself, to what extent do these goals all serve a common purpose? Okay, you'll understand and have a better chance of getting where you want to go and where you really care about and where you want to be. So again, I thought about this with these low-level goals and one's overall hierarchy. And I never realized they also give an example of cartoonists. And I thought this was really good. Cartoonists, from what I can read, live with more rejection than anybody. 9 out of 10 of their cartoons are rejected. They could put in 500 cartoons and about 17 of them would be accepted. Do you know that is a 96% rejection rate? Think about that. What if 9 out of 10 people said no to you? Okay, would you still be persistent enough to say, I need to go out and reach that one? I need to go out and reach that one. I need to go out and reach that one. With perseverance, you will get better. And what I liked about this chart, remember we talked about low-level goals, taking you towards your mid-level goals and then to your ultimate goal. Well, the reason we have an X through this is it's kind of like a rejection slip, like the cartoonist got, a setback, a dead end. The gritty person will be disappointed, even heartbroken, but not for long. Soon enough, they'll identify a new low-level goal, draw a new cartoon, something that serves the same purpose, and you can see here it is replaced. And I can tell you, when I started building this, our Shaklee business, I can't even tell you how many different things I tried. I did brochures on cars. I did silent prospecting boxes. I did all kinds of parties. I did all kinds of in-home things. I did fairs. You name it, I probably did it. And I had to find some of the things that worked best for me. And so I just kept replacing them with things that began to work. And as you work through, there's so many different ways of doing this business, so many different facets to be clarified. And that's the other thing I'm learning about is, what do you want to focus on in this business? It doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to do all the other things, but it's maintaining a focus, because there's so many different avenues we have to be able to pursue. One of the mottos of the Green Berets is improvise, adapt, and overcome. A lot of us were told as children, what? If at first you don't succeed, try again. And that's exactly what we have to do. You know, and sometimes I will get a lot of no's, and I will have a lot of people basically reject the idea right now. And then I'll get discouraged a little bit, and I'll be like, you know what? There's millions of people out there. This is only a handful of people. I'm just going to set them to the side, continue to stay in contact with them, offer them what we have, and I'm going to move on. So we all have that place of disappointment, of discouragement, but it's a matter of how much grit do you got to keep going and move on. And this really helped me to see that. And that's what I've been doing. So it really gave me a clarity to that. And the other thing that this one guy talked about, he would take and he submitted all kinds of cartoons to the New York Times, because that was his dream, to be able to be a cartoonist for the New York Times. Everything got denied. Everything got the rejection slip. So you know what he did? He started looking at all the cartoons that they published. What is he doing? He's doing his homework. He's going back and researching what has worked. And you know what he did? He found out that everything that they had in common was to make the reader think. So guess what he did? He started tweaking his cartoon drawings, and guess what? They started accepting his cartoons. And guess what? He ended up working for the New York Times as a contracted cartoonist. You know, so we learn as we go forward. And I'm all about the motto of, when you do something, reflect what you did. What did you do well? What do I need to reset and do better? Okay, how can I make it, tweak it a little bit, and then I'm going to redo it, you know, so that it can become better and better. And so he says giving up on the lower level goals is not only forgivable, it's sometimes absolutely necessary. You nix it. If it's not working, you need to move on and find something else. Okay. It's just, it makes more sense, right? Now, however, your highest level goal, this is the one you want to be stubborn about. Okay. This is the one you want to be stubborn about and figure out what's going to work to get you to that goal. So in closing with that, however you scored on the grit scale, I hope it prompted self-reflection. It's progress, just clarifying your goals to the extent of which they are or aren't. Aligned toward a single passion of supreme importance. It's also progress to better understand how well you're currently able to persevere in the face of life's rejection slips. We are all going to get rejected at one point or another. It's just a matter of figuring out what that ultimate goal needs to look like in order to get through those. And one of the things that you can do is a mental exercise to help you identify your dream. If you had what, I would blank. If you had blank, I would blank. The idea, if you had anything you wanted, unlimited time, unlimited money, unlimited information, unlimited staff, all the resources you had, what would you do? Your answer to that question is your dream. It's a part of who you are and what you're passionate about. And so again, just a lot of food for thought and things for you to think about on your own. I am going to go ahead, whoops, and stop